Hey, how we doing, guys? Welcome back to the Heads or Tail podcast. I can't believe it. We're here again. It's great to be back and excited because we are in summer now, guys. We are fully in the swing of summer. A lot of us are out of school, already getting running with a lot of sports and different athletic things. I'm seeing all over Instagram and Twitter, all these different camps and stuff. So I know we are busy already. And I appreciate everybody that's tuned in and just super excited. Let's go. All right, let's go. So again, today we want to dive into the head side of the coin. And if you've been following around for quite a while, the Heads or Tail podcast is really a collaboration with CatchMark SportsNet to provide a resource, supports to our local coaches and athletes and leaders about not only the head side of the coin of being able to develop the individual mindset. And we walked through that in those three pillars this, over the last couple episodes, the last couple months. But then on the flip side, how do you begin to develop an entire team mentality, all right? And really align those attitudes, beliefs, and actions towards a common goal. And the thing is that they don't have to be like opposite. They don't have to be one or the other, right? Like it's two sides of the same coin, and they can kind of mold together and really shape each other. And that's what we try to dive in here. My background has been working within athletics, not only as a former college coach, but then in a consultant role, you would say, for the last probably 12 to 15 years. And I've really zoomed in on really this idea of just performance and how to enhance your biology, your physiology. How do we leverage that? But then how do we leverage the psychology and what as well? And that's at the core of Meraki Performance. We believe deeply that greatness is within everybody, and it is our really purpose and mission that we want to help you find that, and we want to create pathways in opportunities in different ways to perspective shifts and actions to unlock that. All right. And that's what today is going to be about. We are moving into the summer, right? A lot of us, especially as it relates to athletes and coaches, a lot of open time now. And I know we fill it quick, but we have a lot more time than what we did. We may have a lot more control and autonomy over our actual schedule. And the thing is that we want to help you understand that performance actually follows a cycle, and we're going to dive into that, all right? But one of the things we want to talk about specifically today and kind of pre-framing this conversation is that we need to disrupt the mindset that more is what we need, right? Like we just need to grind. We just need to keep doing this because you have to understand there's more inputs than just time, all right? And I want to say that again. It's more than just putting time in for progress. We have to look at it from a perspective of not 1 + 1 = 2, but how do we use things in leverage and end up using other inputs? A lot of times we only look at time. Are you spending time in the gym? Are you spending time lifting? Are you spending time doing these things and with your teammates? Or are you spending time this? And I'm the first one to tell you time is critically important. We need to be able to evaluate our time. We need to be able to make sure we're putting our time to the things that keep moving us towards where we want to go. Absolutely. But I want you to also think of, what about your attention? What about your attention and your energy? Because those two things are extremely important as well. Because we know we can show up and you can go through autopilot and you can give the time, but without that attention and energy, it's not the same. Right? Without showing up and being able to give your full self, without being able to give your full attention, it doesn't mean anything. All right. And that's what we want to talk about and kind of pre-frame, because we need to be able to not only give time to each of these spaces in the performance cycle. All right. And we can look at this from a developmental standpoint as well. But we also need to be able to give our full attention, and we need to be able to give all of the energy that we have. And there's pieces of this that we need to be able to lean into to be able to gain energy again and move back in. And I've talked quite a few times, and obviously I do this a lot. I'm fortunate enough to be able to be welcome into spaces and be in front of and get to talk and interact with a lot of high performers, both athletically and even in the business world. We're beginning to talk more about the corporate athlete, the business athlete. And I often get this like old school, hey, like this energy woo woo kind of feel. And I think I've highlighted this before, but this is a real thing. You know, at the end of the day, and I'm going to have you maybe evaluate this a little bit, but you know the times of day when your energy is at the peak, right? Your fuel, you got a full tank and you're ready to go. You're firing on all cylinders, and you know when you're empty, right? I'm sure you've heard the like, I just got nothing left, right? That means your energy is low. Okay. And so we can kind of get a feel for that and adapt our schedule to really maximize some of these I would say phases of the flow cycle or a performance cycle to really maximize ourselves. All right. And so I really want you to begin to think of creating the perfect schedule as it relates to this performance cycle. Okay. And we need to be able to understand it, and we need to be able to leverage it to really be at our best. All right. And so the performance cycle really follows basically 4 phases. All right. In the first, I'm going to dive into each of these, but the first is struggle. We need to be able to struggle. There needs to be a period of time that we're struggling. There needs to be a release. And the release ends up pushing us into that performance, or we would say flow state, right? That's another way to look at this. And this is all, there's been tons of research on this. So this isn't just something that's like, I just created this. Like this has been a lot of research done with this. And somebody you can look to is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who is, they consider the godfather of flow. He talks a lot about peak performance and peak performance experiences. And then there's another gentleman, Stephen Coulter, who's come out with a variety of different books. He actually runs an entire research institute called the Flow Collective that I've been fortunate enough to study within as well. So these aren't just things that, this sounds cool. Like this is research-backed principles and concepts. And then the final thing after that flow is there needs to be a time for recovery, all right? And again, struggle, release, flow or performance, you could say, and then recovery. And here's the thing with struggle is that we need to understand there's going to be some friction. There's going to be some buildup. There's going to be some stretch, and we call stress at times, that leads to finally a release, all right? And the release can be a multitudes of different things. One, a release could just be taking a deep breath, right? Take a deep breath in, or breathe out. You could be wrestling with something in your, let's say you're running through a drill and you just don't get the footwork right, and you just don't have the technique right down, and you're frustrated and you're struggling. And then coach says, hey, take a water break, right? That can be a release, like a quick water break, take a deep breath. For some of you coaches or maybe parents and leaders that are watching this from a different perspective, you may have been working or focusing on a project and you couldn't really break through that wall, and then you like took a shower, you were about to fall asleep or something like that, and then all of a sudden, boom, this idea came to you, right? That can be a release, all right? There's actually some stories in recounts of Thomas Edison and some of his breakthroughs in his patents, or not patents, but his forgetting the word right now, his inventions. And some of those inventions, he would hit this wall and he would hit it continuously and try to work through it and couldn't work through it. And what he would do is he would fall asleep or almost fall asleep in a chair, and he would have 2 like metal spheres in his hands, right? And he would be sitting there, and as he would almost fall asleep, where he went to like almost being into his subconscious, the balls would drop, boom, and he'd wake up, and whatever was on his mind, he would scribble on a board. And so many times, that was the answer to his invention. That was the answer to his breakthrough. And so what he was able to do is create a release to get into that, all right? And in later episodes and different things, we can talk more about how to really craft releases to help you get into then that creative state, that performance zone, being able to be in tune fully in what you're doing, having a clear goal, getting immediate feedback, and having that just manageable challenge, all right? That's the performance zone. That's that flow state. That's the third cycle. And then finally, on the back side of that, there needs to be proper time to recover, all right? There needs to be proper time to calm down. And that doesn't always look like sleep. Like sleep is a big thing, absolutely. Like we need to make sure we're getting proper sleep. But this could also look like the proper nutrition, all right? There's times that I, throughout my day, will go for a walk. Today, I actually, I was working from home. My boys, hey, let's go for a walk. We went for a 5 minute walk. Like that can also be some active recovery, right? Those are pieces of that recovery, but we need to be able to recover. All right. And the thing I want to highlight here and really hit hard is that if you think of your electronics, take a minute and think of, your iPhone, your computer, even your TV, okay? At a certain point in time, it goes into sleep mode. At a certain point in time, it needs rest. At a certain point of time, it actually shuts down and conserves energy and maybe not restores, right? It doesn't have a rechargeable, it has a rechargeable battery, but it doesn't just recharge itself, okay? But it needs the time to pause and recharge. It needs the time to pause and conserve energy, okay? And that's what I want you to begin to look at recovery as. Because one of the biggest pitfalls I see is this grind, do more, and we don't recover. And what we end up slipping into is this autopilot. We end up slipping into this just going through the motion. We end up slipping into just giving time with zero progress. We end up just hitting the same walls and doing the same things over and over and over again. And when it relates to increasing our capacity to withstand and do things and our capability to withdo them, right, to do them, we need the recovery in the energy, in the cognitive firepower to be able to break through and do some of those things, all right? It needs to be there. It needs to happen. And so I want us to be, I'm hitting that hard because what I have found and what I really want, that's kind of the principle I want to highlight today, because I want to break this down and say, what are some things we can do with it? Okay. And again, it's the struggle. We need to be able to go through the struggle. We need to have enough resources to be able to go through the struggle, not only physically, but mentally. We need to have those resources. Some of us, it's so frustrating emotionally, we need to gain the emotional strength to go through that. All right. We need to be able to release. We need to be able to highlight like when we can take a deep breath, when we need to go take a water break, when we need to tap out and do something else for 5 minutes, for 2 minutes, and then lock back in, okay? Because there's also a lot of research that you don't want to be in this period or this space for, 2-3 hours at a time. It's very difficult, and you train yourself to get up to that, but it's very difficult to do that. And if you do, you need an even longer recovery period afterwards. And then there's going into that peak performance or that flow state, all right? And then on the backside, we want to recover. And so the big thing that I want you to think about today as it relates to that, and we're looking at the summer again, trying to figure out where's the optimal spot for us to be able to do this within our own space, right? Within our own schedule. But I want you to avoid the extremes. And this is what I mean by this. Avoid the extremes. Like some extremes can be good. We can look at extremes and say, extreme is okay because it's performance enhancing, all right? It's actually helping me become my best, okay? But what I see too much of extremes, especially in these times in the summer, I've seen this with athletes all the time. It's one or two things. I'm either training way too much or I'm not training at all. Like there's very few athletes that I've been able to see and interact with and engage with that have been able to balance this really well. It's either like you can't get them into the weight room, locker room. They don't want to do anything. It's their time to just rest and do nothing, all right? Or they're training so much in so many different sports that they're making zero progress, all right? And I know that I'm not saying like, hey, you figure out what's best for you, but I can tell you from a performance standpoint, if you are competing in multiple sports, training in multiple sports, trying to develop in multiple areas with all these sports, there is so much chaos and lack of clarity and so much output, like things going out that you're not really going to make progress. That's just the reality of it. You're not going to make the progress you want to make. And some people might throw the ego on and go, nope, not me. Okay. All right. This is going to continue. Eventually this cliff comes. And I actually was just talking to a coach the other day on Monday, and he said, look, man, I know athletes, I've recruited athletes, and even, I have a family member that was phenomenal at one of his sports, played multiple sports, traveling, was constantly competing and training and doing all these things in multiple sports. And he graduated and he said, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to play anymore. It's not even fun for me. He literally hit the cliff. He had nothing more to give. All right. And so if that's you right now, what I would challenge you to do is evaluate where do you find the most enjoyment, fulfillment? What sport is yours? And I'm not saying quit sports. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if you're playing travel baseball, right? If you're playing travel baseball, it's probably not the same time that you want to play travel basketball, be training in both of those, and then be training in the summer for wrestling or football, right? Like if you're a football player and you play basketball and you play baseball, this might be the time to be focusing on football with everything coming up, and maybe do some travel ball. I don't know. Like you got to evaluate that for yourself, and then maybe cut basketball out until I don't know, the fall. Like thinking through when the best time to be, because the absolute worst thing you could be doing right now for your development. And again, if you want to just play all the sports and enjoy it, do it. But if you truly have aspirations, if you want to be able to play at the highest level possible, you want to develop in the most ways possible this summer, you have to identify where those point of leverage is, where the point of leverage is, and you need to put all the time and attention you can to that and energy. All right. And so if you're like, look, I want to be this guy in the football field this summer and I want to do this, great. Let's put the time, attention, and energy into that. And let's say you're a great baseball player. Okay, cool. Let's put some time and attention and energy in that. But basketball might have to sit on the wayside. And I know there's some coaches like, no, don't do that. You have to understand that if again, this athlete is doing 3, 4, 5 things this summer, like by the time they get to that basketball season, you don't even have all of them. They're already on 80%. And then you go through that long basketball season and now they get into playoffs and they're at 20%. Right? And so you have to play the long game a little bit. All right? You have to play the long game a little bit. So avoid the extremes, all right? Too much training, too much performing, too much of that, or too much recovery and resting. Like just not doing enough, okay? And then the other piece with too much of the extremes is avoid trying to change and do too much in terms of development in your specific sport. All right. And I've seen it a lot where it's like, all right, it's the summertime, it's the off season, or it's a preseason, we're building up, we're going to reconstruct everything. Okay. If you absolutely need to do that, make sure that an athlete is committed to the process and the plan that you have set aside and you've both committed to get them back into that point by the time season starts or preseason, that they're ready to go. Because if they're not willing to commit to that plan, that's a very, very frustrating journey for both the coach and the athlete. And when you have too many areas you're trying to develop in, what begins to happen is there's a lack of clarity. And you need clarity in order to reach your best, in order to perform at your best. And there's a lot of frustration in the skills, right? We're changing too many things. And so the skills, like we can't get the skills to keep up with what we're trying to do, all right? And we're not able to actually put the proper time, attention, especially, and energy to the skill development and acquisition part of this development, all right? And so avoid the extremes, all right? Avoid the extremes. And then the other piece I want you to think, as we talked about this flow cycle or this performance cycle, is those 4 phases is set an optimal rhythm and evaluate, when are you at your best? Think through, when are you at your best? If you are somebody that is a morning person and you are somebody that wakes up and after 30 to 45 minutes, you're really like, let's go, let's tackle the day, and you're that person, that could be and probably should be the time that you focus on increasing your skill, increasing your capability and capacity in something, because you have the cognitive resources, you have the energy and the fuel to be able to put towards going through the struggle phase and moving into that place where you can perform, all right, where you can develop. If you're somebody that is a night person and you enjoy the night, waking up early and scheduling a training. Now I get coaches are going to schedule things, but scheduling a training to actually work through and develop a skill in the morning, maybe with a private coach or some private lesson type stuff, it's probably not good to do that in the morning because you're not going to be at your best. And if you're going to spend the time at that place, in that space and doing those things, you want to bring your full attention and energy, okay? And so being able to optimize, and that's what peak performance is. It's iterating and tweaking and pulling levers and moving mechanisms and things to bring out your best. If you are somebody that, hey, morning's my time, like try to schedule some of that heavy lifting, right? Not just physically, but mentally that you're going to do in that morning, okay? If you're somebody that's like midday more, hey, I'm good from 11 till 3. Try to schedule that time, right? If you're somebody that's evening, right? Try to schedule that time. And then if you have things scheduled in the afternoon, okay, like coach and team, it's team stuff in the afternoon, but you're not really that afternoon type person, you got to be able to give yourself some time during the day, so maybe 2 to 4 to rest and recover, to gain energy, to really push through that, all right, to mentally prepare yourself. Because if you end up getting up, working out, doing all these things, you go, and then you get to the end of the day, and now all you have left is 10% for that practice, you're not bringing all the energy you can. You're not bringing everything you have and giving your full attention, right? And you need that to keep developing. So understand that and set up specific times to sleep. Like I would put it in a calendar. I wake up at this time. I go to bed at this time. Here's some maybe specific times. I work out. Great. I'm going to have 10 minutes of recovery, whatever that is, right? Set it up in your calendar so you don't have to waste time and energy here. You can just do it. You can just follow the calendar, all right? The other thing is eating and nutrition. That's super, super, super important to make sure that you're eating the right things, and doing the right things, putting the right nutrition into your body, all right, so that you can get the most you can out of it, especially at this time in the summer. And then the other piece is with this recovery is some active recovery. This is something that I think we all could grow in. This is something that I think a lot of us kind of drop the ball, for lack of better terms, in this. And active recovery looks like stretching, foam rolling. Maybe if you have a local gym, you can go to a sauna or an ice bath or walking, or maybe it's a hobby of fishing or cycling, or maybe it's just going to the beach and relaxing a little bit. Try to make sure you stay hydrated, some things that keep you moving and you enjoy, but they're not taking tons and tons of resources from you. If anything, they're replenishing you. All right. I wanted to highlight here too, some fake recovery that I think that we're like, oh man, I do this all the time. I just sit and watch Netflix. Like I'm recovering, I'm relaxing. That's fake recovery. All right. Same with social media and scrolling social media. I'll ask you this. How often after you scroll social media for however long you do you jump up with all the energy in the world and say, let's go to practice. I'm excited. Let's go. And your energy's up. Typically it's depleted. Typically it's probably minimized. And you've gone into autopilot and you've drained resources. You haven't really recovered. All right. Texting and constantly being on your phone and turned on and responding back to people is another way it's fake recovery. All right. And even gaming. Okay. Even gaming, sitting there gaming for hours and hours and hours. That's fake recovery. What happens is, although you're not physically moving, although you're not moving around physically, you are still stimulating your brain. Your brain never truly calms down. Your brain never truly pauses. Your brain never truly recovers and recharges. And in recovery, especially these mini recoveries throughout the day, you have to be able to recharge. And that's what you're trying to do with this. So there's 1 and 2. Avoid the extremes, all right? Try to set an ideal schedule, all right? And throw it in this week and then iterate it. If this didn't work, that didn't work, iterate it. But try to create a rhythm within your days. And then finally, what I want to talk about is really being intentional and creating a plan. And I use the word intentional because intentional means to give specific time and energy to something, right? To give attention and energy to something, all right? And what I want you to do is be intentional to create a plan, all right? And I want you to think first of setting an end goal. If you're looking at your fall, this coming fall, and this summer is an opportunity for you to take huge strides in your development, I want you to look at what's the end goal. Come to the beginning of the season or maybe the end of the season. What is the ultimate end goal? Like, who do you want to be? What skills do you want to have? What capacity do you want to increase? What capability do you want to be able to, like, what are the things you're going to want to be able to do? Obviously, there's end goals for teams and things that we want to do as a team, but what do you want to be? Who do you want to be individually? And what do you want to be able to do? All right. What position do you want to be able to be in to experience what you want to be able to experience in the future? All right. And I know I'm talking in generalities, but if you are somebody that, man, I have aspirations to play at the next level, okay, what do those people, what's their capability at the next level? What are they able to do? How are they able to run routes? What routes are they able to run? What's their time in different ways that they're run? Like, what are the different things? If you're, what can they throw? What can't they throw? I don't know what it is for your sport, right? Pitchers, what can they throw? What can't they throw? For batters, what's their percentage of hitting, right? Volleyball players, your percentage of hitting, whatever that is, passing percentages, right? These are all examples that I'm just throwing out there. But what is that ideal person? Like, what are they able to do at the next level if you're a high school athlete? And if you're a college athlete, what are you what are you wanting to increase? What are you wanting to be able to do? Okay. And connect that to how does that apply to the team goals or align and push the team goals along. Okay. So starting with that end goal, what's the end goal that you want? Okay. And I really want you to push yourself here. Don't make it something comfortable like, oh, I really want to be all state, but I was all state last year. So I just wanted, that's not okay. Like, yes, there's a lot of things that need to happen for that to happen again. But if you've already achieved it, let's stretch further. Okay. Let's stretch further. Let's try to move the ball further. And these should in some ways scare you a little bit. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. Good. All right. That's okay. That's where we talk to our coaches. That's where we go, I don't know, man, this came to mind. I'm excited about it, but I don't know how it's going to happen. And then we create a plan. Okay. And that's what we're doing here. So you have that end goal. Then I want you to set means goals. Okay. And this is what I mean by means goals. I want these goals to be the means to getting you to the end. I want you to look at these as milestones, as things that you need to achieve and do as you move towards that end goal, as you move closer to achieving that ultimate end goal, okay? And I want these to be high leverage skills. And what I mean by that is these are big things that can really unlock or push forward not only your development, but really push the team forward, okay? And so maybe it's being able to throw a certain ball. Maybe it's being able to this certain move or have this tool in your toolbox. Maybe it's being able to shoot a ball from this certain thing or rolling off this screen from here, whatever it is. Like, it's something high leverage skill, right? It's going to take some time to develop. But if you develop this capability and you increase your capacity to be able to do it, especially under pressure, it's going to have huge payoffs, not only for yourself, but for your team as well. All right. And again, they're high impact, leverageable skills for your entire team and yourself. Okay. And I want you to set like check marks. So by July 1, if my end goal is this, I'm going to be able to do this. And by preseason, I'm going to be able to add this to it and be able to do this. And by season beginning, I'm going to be able to do this, right? And so we're stacking and moving these mean goals of like, okay, I was able to develop this. Now I need to increase my capability and capacity and doing this and adding this to it. And then I need to move on and add this to it. And eventually getting us to a point where by the time season starts, we've transformed, like we've created huge amounts of distance, all right? And so we have those means goals, those almost milestones that we're hitting along the way. And then we give ourselves weekly focuses, all right? This week, I'm going to focus on this part of it. This week, I'm going to focus on this part of it. This week, the focus is going to be here. This week's the focus is going to be here. And then with these focuses too, I want you to understand that it's okay if you only have a focus for this week and next week and maybe the first week in July. That's fine, okay? Because the further we go, the further we see. And so right now, you might not be able to see what the focus needs to be in August, what the focus needs to be in September, but we can see what the focus needs to be this week, next week, maybe the following week to get us moving in the right direction, okay? And we want to be able to start the momentum moving forward, all right? And so we're giving ourselves weekly focuses. And then finally, I want you to put daily action to it. I want you to put daily action to it. I want you to be able to say, every single day, I'm going to do this thing, this tangible, executable, measurable thing that I know is aligned with the weekly focus, that I know moves me closer to means goal 1, that I know once I get that means goal 1 will move me closer to means goal 2, right? And so on and so forth. And once we hit that means goal 1, we can go, okay, what are the daily focuses now? What are the daily focuses that are going to be aligned with the weekly focuses that are aligned with means goals 3? Does that make sense? Hope I'm explaining that well. So what you're doing essentially is stacking. And what you'll find with this is if you are very disciplined with this and you create the plan and you execute on the plan, you will cover so much distance in your development. You are going to shrink time and be able to develop in ways that you were like, I didn't think that I could do this. I didn't think that I would really be able to get to this point, right? And not saying that it's not going to be difficult, not saying that it's not going to be challenging and hard and there's going to be struggle. But what you'll find is that progress is made much quicker because there is clarity, there is a plan for skill development, and there is immense amount of desire because you're tying everything you can to the next goal in front of you and ultimately to that end goal, which is one of your greatest desires, especially for this coming season, okay? It stacks it. And I've seen this time and time again absolutely transform the development of an athlete and even a team as a whole as you're developing into your season, okay? And so I don't want to minimize the power of this. We think sometimes that it's so complicated, and I hope that this doesn't seem complicated because in my mind it's very, very simple. What do you ultimately desire? What are the 2 to 3 means goals that are going to help you get to that ultimate desire? What are your weekly focuses? And what are your daily actions to get to the first mean goal, then reassess, then to the second mean goal, then reassess, then to the third mean goal, then reassess, and where are we at and how do we keep developing? And I think what you will find is you're going to get to that first July 1, if you really execute the next 3 weeks and you go, man, I got to rethink this ceiling. Like I just broke through the ceiling that I thought, like, man, if I could just do this, man, there's so much more I can do, right? That you'll be able to break through. Why? Because you were disciplined, because you had a plan, because there was clarity, and because you gave specific attention and energy to things. You had intention in what you were doing in your training. And that needs to happen this summer if you're really trying to cover some distance, all right? And so if you are somebody that like, man, I would love to talk more about this, feel free to reach out to us at any social media outlet, or you can email me, dan@merakiperform.com. I'd love to help put a schedule together for you, help you craft this. I want to see each of you maximize this summer, all right? Maximize this summer. And if you're seeing this at a later date, please reach out. I'd love to help you walk through this exercise and really succinct things and be able to get really clear and really focus on where you're trying to go and what you're going to do to get there, okay? And the last thing I want to say is just, I know in summertime, like, man, we got some extra moments, maybe some extra time. If you're somebody that wants to increase your capacity, your capability, and you want to understand more about peak performance and how to get more out of yourself, I want to recommend this book. It's called Peak Performance, and it's by Brad Studelberg and Steve Magnus, okay? And these gentlemen, this is something that's informed a lot of what I have done. I've used this as a great resource. They have definitely challenged me in some ways, but also has confirmed a lot of the things that I have naturally found and researched on my own and kind of conceptualized. There's a lot of through lines where I'm like, oh, I say it this way. One of their big things, as I talk about that flow cycle or their performance cycle, and we talk about recovery and rest, their thing is like stress plus rest equals growth. And if you want to be able to withstand immense amount of stress, which is competition at the end of the day, right? And you want to be able to compete at a really, really high level, then you need to properly rest. And when you do that, you grow, all right? And so that's kind of something that they say and have really highlighted in their book, and they unpack. I've recommended this to many coaches, and coaches are like, man, thank you so much. This helped shift my mindset. This helped shift my approach. This helped shift the way that I interact with kids to keep getting the best out of them, because that's what we're about. All right. With Heads or Tails, that's what we're about. We're about helping the individual develop their mindset. We're about the teams developing that collective mentality. And with Meraki Performance, we believe greatness is within you. And we want to do everything we can to help you unleash that. First, find that, and then unleash that. And so if you have found this podcast, YouTube show, whatever we're calling it, more of a YouTube show, if you found this show helpful, please, we would be grateful for you to share it. right? Give it to somebody, all right? And support them in their development and help them develop and share this. Feel free to reach out to us. If there's topics or things that you say, man, if you could really share this, this would be so beneficial and helpful, that would be great. All right, share that with us. You can email us or you can message us. And like always, keep developing, keep growing, keep unleashing. All right, find the greatness within and keep chasing it down and living it out. We appreciate your time today, and we will catch you next time on the Heads or Tails show.